Ooh.
Got
sunned by him. Just got sunned by him.
That's not untoward.
Must call them daddy.
Yeah. All right. As long as all right, let's start. See what happens. All right, and welcome to Fastbreak Breakfast NBA podcast. My name is Keith. We've got Adam Marez coming up in just a little bit, but right now I am joined, as always, by John Burr. John, how are you?
Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. If those of you watching on YouTube can see the hat that John has chosen to wear, it's painful. I find it untoward. He's wearing a Charlotte Hornets hat the day after the Hornets destroyed our Memphis Grizzlies. Explain yourself, John.
Now. They're the daddy now. Furthermore, I'll posit we destroyed ourselves.
That is, I think, a very reasonable and mature way of looking at it. The Grizzlies went a very long time without making any shots.
I feel like there were 20 shots in a row. I might be making that up.
I think it was something very close to that. Now, Kelly Oubre, who we've discussed a lot on this show.
D'Lon Brooks revenge game.
Whatever reason.
Brooks revenge game.
The D'Lon Brooks. Kelly Oubre, who the Grizzlies did not trade for, fatefully back in the day when it was discovered they wanted Dylan Brooks and not Marshawn Brooks. Kelly Oubre scored 37 points on 17 field goal attempts. He was 7 for 9 from 3. That's upsetting.
Ricky Rubio-esque.
Ricky Rubio numbers. What's the most surprising stat line from Wednesday night, John? You had Kelly Oubre. Kelly Oubre, 37 points on 17 field goal attempts. You also...
It was a crazy Lonzo three-pointers game. I think he made only three-pointers.
Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah, 31 points.
31 points on, 18 field goal attempts. And then, I don't know, should we throw in Nickeil Alexander-Walker going for 33 or Anthony Edwards going for 48?
48, yeah. A lot of crazy stuff going on.
No, it's Kaminsky, right? Is it Kaminsky or Oubre?
I'm going with Kaminsky.
Yes, you're right.
I can visualize a world where Kelly Oubre does this. I did not know the Frank Kaminsky 30-point game was possible.
I wasn't sure he was still in the NBA.
He's only been playing since the Ayton injury, and it was kind of like, are we going to play Frank or are we going to play this other schmo?
I'll admit, I'll let listeners know that I didn't watch this game. I went to bed a little bit early last night.
You're no longer like the once upon a time in Hollywood, West Coast, driving down Sunset Boulevard pimp daddy. You're more like you're like a St. Louis, you're like a St. Louis time zone guy now. You're fading fast.
I'm fading fast, and I'm not the night owl I once was. I was in bed at 11:30. And I missed some of these late games. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, oh, man, the Lakers won? How'd the Lakers beat the Heat?
It's good. You don't have to see travesties like that.
Yeah, I would have been very upset to find out the Lakers won, damaging the Grizzlies draft pick.
You would have seen Andrew Wiggins go off. That's not fun. Andrew Wiggins go.
So that game, I went to bed when that game was over. So I caught some. I did watch some of Warriors Timberwolves. But then I see in the morning that Frank Kaminsky scores 31 points, and my first thought is, for CSKA Moscow? Like, it's the Suns? I didn't know the Suns brought him back. So that's my apology. That's my fault for not following the Suns close enough. Were there any other, all right, if we're not going to surprising result, how about some of these games? I feel like there was a lot of important games. The matchups were incredible generally. There were a lot of teams where I felt like there were games like the Celtics beating the Raptors where that's a big win for the Celtics to kind of catch up to the Raptors. I think there were a lot of those. There were good teams matched up. There were bad teams matched up. It was like a perfectly done, it's like a little league or like a kids soccer league where you actually pair the teams up based on talent level. I thought the NBA did a great job by their random schedule generator on Wednesday.
I hated it because I learned that I know nothing, because I think I went 1-11 in pickle.
Oh,
and
dear.
all my little narratives I had woven fell apart. You know, Will Barton carrying the Nuggets past the Pacers was not in my lexicon either. So, you know, yeah, it was just, I mean, I guess it was refreshing to be reminded that no one knows anything.
Also you have like the Kings, where we've been talking about how De'Aaron Fox is off to a slow start, where he goes for 37 and they get trounced by the Spurs.
Good. See, we can dial it back. We can still say our thing.
That we can still fall back into our narratives that, all right, maybe.
But then the Spurs' very own, like, poor shooting guard, DeJounte Murray, also goes off. So
I'm not going to call him a poor shooting guard. That guy rules.
No, I mean, like, he was having a bad beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Like their own De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah. What about did you catch any of the rookie showdown on ESPN, the nationally televised 1-9 Rockets against the 1-8 Pistons?
I did not. Very purposefully did not. I wasn't ready for Jeremy Grant highly efficient performance either. So no, my watching schedule thus far has been, I did watch our Nuggets Pacers. I've just finished Grizzlies Hornets and had to don this cap for Blazer Boy-esque poor betting reasons. And then I did watch Heat Lakers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, present company aside, if you're not watching Heat Lakers, what are you watching? I mean, and I saw a highlight, which I want to dig into. Did you see the Bulls play that ends? It's a series of plays.
Oh, yes.
That ends with Alonzo 360 dunk.
Well, so Bulls Mavericks also, I thought, one of the great games from Wednesday night. Bulls get a very nice victory over a Mavs team, which is 7-4, but not looking the best. Jason Kidd, calling Luka Doncic, said he played very average. I would love for Luka Doncic to respond with how he felt Jason Kidd coached in one of these games. But anyway, yeah, this play, diagram the play for our listeners if they might have missed it. I assume everyone saw it.
What I love about this play is I feel like it encapsulates the three types of basketball players that each person aspires to be. Because it begins with this amazingly heady, deceptively athletic defensive play by Alex Caruso.
Scrappy.
So there's like what many, especially white guys, want to be when they're playing basketball. And then it is followed by, he steals a ball and gets it to Lonzo. Then it is followed by this, forget extremely heady, Professor Xavier level psychokinetic, Patrick Mahomes football pass laser, Jokic-esque laser.
Yeah, please say Jokic, because Mahomes has fallen off a cliff.
That's true.
For our NFL fans.
Something that not very many people can do from a mental standpoint nor physical standpoint from Lonzo. So you have like the basketball philosopher play, which lots of people, that's what I always wanted to do in basketball. And then it is punctuated by something that mere mortals cannot do, in a 360 in-game dunk. That's the type of play that's forever play. That's going to be a hard play to beat for me this year. And it also encapsulates the like completely preposterous, transcendent turnaround of the Chicago Bulls franchise.
It also,
and hey, not all of it worked. Like the trade for Vucci Mane, maybe not the best thing, but they were willing. It's similar to like what the Atlanta Braves just did in baseball, where it's like, we're just going to go for everyone and hope some of it sticks.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done. And I think they should be commended for it, especially for their fan base after living through this Garpax, interminable Garpax era. This has to be, I don't know how anyone could look at the Chicago situation and not be heartened.
What's exciting about that amazing play, that amazing sequence of three individual efforts, it was almost all undone by Dwight Powell blindly swinging his hands up in the air. It shows like the razor's
pace.
Margin of how close. It also is like, if you go back to football, if you watch like the behind the quarterback cam, sometimes how many inches separate, like just that went right by that linebacker, right by that defensive player. And this is Dwight Powell. He almost undid it all, but just by blindly clapping his hands above his head. But it did complete that play. And like you said, the Bulls just going for it. We commend. I feel like a lot, you don't worry about you're like, all right, this trade didn't work out great as far as the future assets given up, but there's something to be said about winning basketball games and like creating excitement around your fan base. And even Lonzo Ball. I mean,
the Lonzo Ball trade is a travesty.
It was a travesty in the time.
Yeah.
It was roundly criticized in the time. Like, why? What are the Pelicans possibly thinking? Like, why?
Well, now you have rumors of David Griffin physically fighting with other Pelicans personnel or former personnel. I mean, that's just an example of a guy trying to save his job, flailing and dooming a franchise.
He flailed like Dwight Powell.
Dooming a franchise.
I don't understand how they traded Lonzo Ball for Satoransky and Garrett Temple because they didn't want to pay. Why did you want to pay Lonzo Ball? He's good. He's a good basketball player.
Point Zion. I don't know.
It is one of the most baffling.
I've never heard of a team having too many passers. That's the first. Too many passers on the Pelicans. Got to just go Point Zion.
What an absolute nightmare. Do we need to do anything? How long have we been going?
Pretty good clip. 15 minutes.
Oh, great. Let me pull up an ad so I can do an ad while you're here. All right, John. Well, before you get out of here, let's tell the listeners about our sponsor, the Memphis Grizzlies. They want you to download the all-access, all-in-one Grizzlies mobile app, now featuring Grind City Media news and notes on all things Grizzlies, NBA, and more. Get 3 experiences with this one app, including a fresh Grizzlies look and feel, along with access to FedEx Forum events. Also, John, those sweet Grind City Media podcasts. This new app has it all. Upgrade your experience and download the Grizzlies app today at the App Store and Google Play. And our Grizzlies, they're going to right that ship. They're going to right that ship on Friday night. Dylan Brooks, the villain, is back. Looked amazing. Everyone else was trash except for Morant.
We lost.
Yeah, it wasn't
not Dylan's fault though.
It wasn't terrific. Anyway, John, appreciate you stopping by as always, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Ta-ta.
All right, thanks, man. That was. Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
So good. Hold on one second. Let me see.
Okay.
Oh yeah, nope, I'm good. My mic's working. There it is.
Yeah, cool. All right. My volume is way loud, turns out. I'm joined right now by Adam Marez from DNVR. Adam, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man.
Sorry,
I'm excited.
Was that too much energy?
That was a lot. I was just trying to match.
Was I giving too much?
I'm trying to catch up, find out what altitude we're at, but okay.
I'll fix the levels in post. Adam, so you're a huge Nuggets fan. There's a lot to talk about with the Nuggets, including one of the stories of the week with some violence, some of that hideous violence in the NBA that we got to get rid of. But before we get there, we start the show with breakfast, as you know. Have you had a breakfast? Have you had a good breakfast recently? Anything you can regale us with?
Not really. And the truth is, behind the scenes here, I was 20 minutes late to this meeting, so I skipped breakfast to be on this show, scrambling. So no. All right. You were 20 minutes late today, but technically, for our listeners, a peek behind the curtain, you were actually 24 hours early. That's true.
When you sent me a message on Wednesday saying, "Hey man, I'm all ready whenever you are." And I was
like,
all
set up and everything.
I was like, we're talking about Thursday. So anyway, you were early and then you were late. It's a wash.
Yeah, it is a wash.
It's fine. No, let's talk about it. We are the least unbiased people to talk about this. Like you, I mean, obviously you cover the Nuggets, huge Nuggets fan. Love Nikola Jokic. I love Nikola Jokic. He was involved in some on-court violence and I'm not sure what the temperature's like nationally. Yeah. Are we allowed to feel as happy as we did? Like, I know you felt happy. The play gave me joy. I think Markieff Morris is fine, right? He's fine.
I think, man, this was the thing, right? So here's we rewind this. It happens Monday night.
Yeah.
It looks like Markieff Morris might have to go to the hospital, and maybe like there's some major injury. And so like, yeah, in the moment you're reacting to this and you don't want to say like, oh man, how great was that? He hit the guy that was being a punk. Because let's be honest, Markieff Morris started it. He gave a sucker punch to Jokic. Jokic dialed it up a couple notches and got him back. So you're looking at this and you're thinking like, okay, on principle, not too upset, but hope Markieff is okay. Turns out he is okay. What I will say is the last 72 hours since the event has happened, Jokic won an MVP last year. His Q score did not go as high as it did after knocking over Markieff Morris. This is the moment we were waiting for, where people finally embraced Nikola Jokic and loved him. And it took beating up a bully for us to get here.
He beat up a bully. And I was so confused by some of like the pearl clutching from other fellow NBA writers, where I'm like, are you not, this is not like he did this to Mike Conley.
Right.
like he did this to a guy who's known as like, he's sort of an quote unquote enforcer now. He normally knocks over smaller players. Normally Markieff Morris is like knocking over little guards, doing cheap shots. I know his brother, Marcus Morris, did a cheap shot on Ja Morant his rookie year in a very similar, the Grizzlies were up by like 15 in the final minutes of the game and didn't like that they broke some unwritten code of still trying to score. And this one, you have Markieff, who, I don't know if you saw it live, like the buildup, something about like on the TV camera, it was the perfect angle where and I had the game on mute actually, and I see where Jokic blocks Adebayo. It looks like there might have been some contact, but they don't make the foul call. And then you can see Markieff Morris like locks in at half court. He's gonna go slam into Jokic, and I'm like, oh no. And then after he hits him, and then I'm like, oh my God, here comes Jokic. And then the reaction was even more than I expected. So, you know,
I didn't see it. So that's the thing. I didn't see that angle. In fact, I didn't see it till after I'd already done a post-game reaction show. And it sucks because my reaction would have been completely different if you see the beeline that, you know, it's one thing if he just bumps into him and, oh my gosh, there was a little hard contact there. Maybe it was incidental. But it wasn't. Like, you watch the replay, it was a very intentional blitz. It looked like a linebacker tackling a quarterback by Markieff Morris. So Jokic dialed it up immediately. I mean, there was like, some people are like, oh, he waited till he turned his back. No, he didn't. He gets knocked over.
Right. There's no hesitation. There's no hesitation. I mean, Markieff Morris did the thing where maybe he thought he was protecting himself, where he delivers the cheap shot and then turns around immediately. Like, hey, you can't hit me if I turn around immediately.
So I wonder if it was defense like that. Like, yeah, you can't hit me if I turn. I think it was actually more, what are you going to do about it? You know, he hits Jokic and walks away as if this like, dude, this dude ain't going to do nothing. And I'm walking away. And Jokic's like, oh, yes, I will. I definitely will. And this is why I think it's a watershed moment, is people have known Jokic is a hothead. And they know he's got these brothers. I've said this for years. Jokic is a tough dude. He's a bit of a crazy person and a tough dude. And he has the jokester personality, this or that. I think last night was finally the night, or Monday night was finally the night that message got through, that, hey, this guy's actually, don't mess with him. Don't poke the bear, because this is the bear that'll bite. And I think the thing that finally pushed it over the edge, and I'm so thankful for it, was Shaq and Chuck both saying, like, if you hit me and turn around, I'm hitting you in the back of the head. Like, them sort of justifying the last piece of this to me got it. And then we saw yesterday, Udonis Haslem gives a quote, and he's like, hey man, I love you. Like, yeah, he basically said, I've got my teammates back, but hey man, I kind of respect it. That was more or less what Udonis Haslem said.
Like you and I, Adam, we're not NBA athletes. We're just people with opinions on the outside. So it's hard for, you know, like our perspective on this, it would be totally different. One thing that makes me feel more comfortable with my personal opinion is I haven't heard a single ex-NBA player say like Jokic did anything out of, they're like, yeah, that's bad, but what else are you going to do? That's what I would have done. That's what everyone else is saying. Like, he clearly did the thing, you know, that was warranted. Like, yes, we're not surprised the league suspended him. We're not surprised he got fined. It's a bad play, but what else are you going to do when someone delivers that kind of cheap shot in the game?
Yeah. By the way, the league handed out a 1-game suspension, and the league hates the violence and like the idea that they have this kind of like a ruffians about. They hate this, and yet they only gave a 1-game suspension. I have to imagine the league's front office was sitting in there saying, and you know, kind of like this, man. Like,
what do you? Yeah. I was surprised that I think Markieff's injury, to whatever extent it was, actually saved him a suspension. Because I thought maybe if they could have suspended him, maybe they would have gone 2 games for Jokic. But something about maybe, all right, he got hurt a little bit, and so we're not going to find him. But I do think that I was a little bit surprised. I think the extent of the violence of Jokic's hit changed it a little bit, but the league always wants to prevent non-stars from attacking stars. Like that's it's not an equal thing if both guys get thrown out. If the eighth man on one team delivers a cheap shot on the MVP at the end of the game, those things are not equitable. But I don't know. You talk about Jokic showing that he's not this like goofy, funny guy all the time. Like he has actual anger and a temper. And I know we like always point out, like maybe we kind of laugh at the fact that he's so into harness racing and like, oh, he just wants to ride his horses. It's like, guys, that's like his Zen, like Bruce Banner. I'm not going to turn to the Hulk. This is his calm down thing. Like maybe I have to ride my horses to remain calm, so I'm not raging all the time.
Not that unviolent too. Like harness racing is a little wild, like it's kind of a crazy thing. And then also, I don't know if you saw this report, but last summer this summer back in Sombor, his team actually got kicked out of his hometown horse track. Yeah, Jokic, the biggest celebrity ever in Sombor, he got kicked out because his team, which included family members, went crazy and like attacked an official. So even in horse racing, these guys can pop off a little bit. Do we have any actual information if like league security reached out to the Jokic brothers or the Morrii to say, hey, like seriously, calm it down because there will be serious repercussions if this continues? What's crazy about this, man, is I'm sure they did. Look, this became a public story, the brother aspect of this, the Twitter aspect of it. And by the way, Jokic's brothers did a great job of this. Speaking in another language, they didn't threaten anybody. They just said, we will retaliate if you threaten us. Like it would have been different if it said like, we're going to come kick your ass or we're going to do this. They said, hey, it's best if you just leave this alone. They almost said it in a mafia way. Like it's best for all of us if you just let this die. Your words, not mine. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, this story, Jokic, the last thing I'll say about this is Jokic, the one thing that people in Denver see about him because we're around him every single day, he's a real one. And I don't mean that as in a tough guy. I just mean that he's not a BSer. Like he's not a guy that's like putting on an act or trying to be something that he's not. Jokic just is himself and people can take it or leave it. And I think, Russell Westbrook, I was blown away a couple of years ago when Russell Westbrook loved Jokic, sent him a birthday gift. And I found out they had this like budding relationship behind the scenes that nobody knew about. And I'm telling you, I think it's because players know Jokic isn't a phony. You might like him or hate him, but he is who he is. And I think that's one of the things that has kind of come out of this is it's like, hey, he's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's not a jerk. He's not a tough guy. He's just real. And he's ready if you're ready. Yeah, he did not hesitate. There's no flinch in that. Do the Nuggets have anyone? Do the Nuggets employ anyone whose job it is to like be a liaison with the Jokic brothers or to maybe advise them on any social media type things like, hey, listen, don't do this. Or like if the Jokic brothers do something, do they get a phone call from someone who works for the Nuggets? So I can't tell you. I'm sure they do. Again, like I remember one game, Tim Conley, the Nuggets GM, is sitting in the stands. I can't remember exactly what incident because there's been so many over the years, but so Jokic gets tangled up with somebody. They're in each other's faces and the brothers are starting to walk down the stands towards the court. And Tim Conley, who's about 170 pounds, is holding on to Strahinja, like with all like Jeff Van Gundy with Alonzo Mourning. He's like holding on to him, just be like, please don't go out there. There's another social media clip. I can't remember the exact instance where again Jokic was fouled hard or something, and the brothers are like walking towards the court, and there's like a 5'5" usher or something, who's just standing there. What's funny about that? Yeah, the beard. So here's what's funny about that. That's Mike. He's he owns a big baseball card shop and souvenir shop of sports. So he's kind of like a known figure, and he does security. He's actually like 6'5". He looks like he's 5'10" because Strahinja and Nemanja are 6'11", 6'10". So they just tower over a guy who's basically my size. Also the steps, I guess the steps of the steps too. Yeah, he's on a row down, maybe. Yeah. That is a big guy, and the look he has in his eyes as he's looking up. Like if you watch that clip, his eyes are just kind of like straight up, just like, oh my God, please don't make me just be a speed bump to you, because that's really all it would have been. Oh man. So the Nuggets on Wednesday night, they win
without Jokic. So it even turns out great for the Nuggets, where Jokic gets a night off after playing every game last season. He gets a night off. The Nuggets take care of business. As far as the on-court play, does it feel kind of fortunate for Denver to be where they are right now? I mean,
oh my God, are you kidding me?
7-4?
7-4, great record. You got 3 more home games on the stand, so you have a chance to really get some momentum going. They're playing some really good basketball with a few important exceptions I'm sure we can talk about. But yeah, to get that win last night, fully completed it. It was just a win all around. Jokic needed rest. He'll never take rest unless you force him to. So it kind of was like, hey, perfect timing. And the team won without him. The Nuggets are really good thanks to Nikola Jokic's, I don't believe in best player in the NBA because I just don't think that makes sense. But I think that there's nobody better than him. Like he's at that level right now where at any given night, he's the best player, no matter who he's going up against. And so he's dragged them to several wins. You've got Aaron Gordon, who's playing incredible defense. The Nuggets are the number 2 defense in the NBA 10 games in. And it doesn't, in previous years, it's been like, oh, they're a top 7 defense. And you're like, yeah, but let's give it a take. This one feels sustainable. Will Barton's playing great. They just have a lot of guys that fit in to what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And it all kind of clicks thanks to the leadership of one Nikola Jokic.
Yeah. So what happens when Will Barton stops shooting 43% from 3? Like, this does not feel sustainable. Will Barton's stats after 11 games.
Well, what's funny about that is it's really only the last 2 games that he's shooting that. If you go back and look, I think he was 7 of 9 2 nights ago.
Yeah, he made Monday, 13 in the last 2 games or something.
And I think he was 6 of 9 last night.
Yeah,
so he's shooting actually like 32% on the season and 70% in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
It averages out. Shooting, if really, I think Denver's regression on shooting is an upward regression. Michael Porter Jr. is not making anything right now. Monte Morris is off to a really slow start. It's really just Barton now, who thanks to last night. JaMychal Green and Jeff Green can't make anything right now. So Denver actually, yes, Will Barton has run hot the last 2 games, and it's helped Denver win 2 games. You take those 2 away and they have a losing record. But I actually think their regression on shooting goes positive, not negative.
That makes sense. Well, what about Michael Porter Jr.? That's a big topic. Like he has been, when he played this year, terrible. And and now there's some injury concerns with his back, and there's like, we don't know when he's coming back exactly. Yeah. What's the story with Michael Porter Jr.? What's your level of concern? What's your level of buyer's remorse, if any?
Well, I'll say first off, level of concern with the injury. Of course, he tweaked his back. It was a weird how he did it, was kind of like a non-contact thing, and then so that's
we all saw how at least we saw the missed layup that was.
Well, it's kind of funny, isn't it, that Sports Center led with the like, oh my, Shaq did a full type moment, like what the hell is this? It's like, actually he might have really hurt himself on that play. It might actually be like a season ender kind of moment here, but yeah. I don't think it is. I've talked to a doctor. I mean, we'll have to wait. Nobody really knows. But I've talked to some doctors that said when you have those herniations and surgeries with that sometimes there are these moments where it just kind of goes, it gives out for a while, and you get a shot and you give some rest and it can bounce back. So I'm waiting to see. Denver, Michael Malone called him questionable on Tuesday, which gives me some hope that maybe this isn't a months thing. It's more of we're waiting to see how he feels, day by day type thing. I'm more concerned, to be honest with you, about how he played when he was healthy and when he was in the game, because Michael Porter, let's not kid ourselves. He's one guy who his fit on the team and his understanding of where he fits on this team, it kind of goes up and down. When it clicks, he looks incredible. He looks like Klay Thompson on the Golden State Warriors, just brings it all together. And when it doesn't click, he really disrupts things. And I think it's no coincidence to me that the Nuggets have kind of gone on a run here in his absence and have looked kind of their best in his absence. I think it was a resetting of, hey, we know who we are as a team. You have to sort of figure out how to fit into this, not the other way around here. And that's kind of one of the big storylines for the Nuggets this first 10 games.
Right. And that defensive rating that you mentioned earlier, that is helped when at times he's not on the court. How do you see this team right now as far as where they fit in the Western Conference hierarchy, as far as the other playoff teams? Or like, what is your kind of Western Conference hierarchy with your adjusted expectations for this Nuggets team based on maybe feeling less assured about Michael Porter Jr. This season, or just maybe it's short term, but just how do you feel the West is stacking up and where do the Nuggets fit?
I mean, there's two teams that are above everyone right now, and that's the Warriors and the Jazz, in my opinion. And really, you could just say the Warriors, and maybe the Jazz are at the top of the next tier. It's kind of however you want to wall that off. The Warriors look great. Every other team, though, is figuring themselves out this year. And I kind of think it's a year of that. I think this is a year where the third best team and the eighth best team are not that different. So Denver's definitely in that. The one thing I'll say about Denver, I have no predictions for this team this year. They're really good. Jokic is really good, and he's good enough that last year with Facu and Rivers could go into Portland and win against them in his prime Damian Lillard in a playoff series. He's very, very good. The rest of the pieces like Jamal Murray, if you told me this Nuggets team was 100% healthy, I would honest to God pick them to win the title. I think they're that good. Jamal Murray, I just have no idea, what he's going to look like, when he's going to come back. That's such an X factor. Will Barton, we got to see if he can get through a season healthy. 3 years in a row, he hasn't. And then Michael Porter, last year, I thought he found a rhythm on this team and it worked really well. This year, that hasn't been the case. I'm optimistic he still will find a rhythm with the team eventually. But it certainly is. I didn't expect that to be an obstacle the team was facing this season. I thought that was all in the past.
When you say the Warriors for you, they're the top. I mean, they have the best record, they have the best net rating and all that. Do you like, if the playoffs started today, like, are they you think they're your favorite in the West?
The playoffs started today, but I mean, they don't, teams,
right.
Especially you look at teams like Los Angeles is clearly treating this like November, which they should. And I think I think a lot of teams are treating this like November. That's kind of what I mean. In years past, you've had teams that have been like, we want the 1 seed and we're going to sprint out the gate and we're going to sprint through January and we're going to sprint. I don't know that any teams are doing that right now. I think every team is kind of like, let's try some things out. We're going to rest LeBron a little extra this year. We're going to rest, we're going to take Jokic got hurt in that Jazz game. He was fine. Nuggets pulled him out and just didn't put him back in, even though he had 24 points in 15 minutes. Like, I think a lot of teams are just playing it really cool right now because they feel they'll just get to the playoffs and we'll sort this thing out. But the one thing I'll say, the last time we saw a healthy Warriors team with Draymond Green and Steph Curry, before Kevin Durant got there, they were incredible. These guys to me have not fallen off. Yeah. I know there was like Steph Curry does not look worse than he did in 2015. He looks just as good.
Yes.
So to me, I look at it and I go, yeah, I think they're a really good team.
The one thing with the Warriors, I think they've left San Francisco something like 3 times.
Okay.
Since before training camp, like they had 1 road preseason game. They've had 2 road trips. Right. They haven't played a back-to-back yet this year. So like they've been at home for this incredibly long stretch. I'm not sure. Like for me, I still, if I'm thinking about not playoff starting now, playoff starting when they actually start, like I'm thinking for me, I still have Jazz and Suns maybe ahead of everybody else.
Interesting.
And then it's like, I'm thinking maybe I have Warriors and healthy Lakers in that next one.
Healthy Lakers is the funny one to me. Talk about hot shooting. I mean, Carmelo Anthony right now is still at what, 54% 3-point? You're like, are we buying this? I'm not buying it.
No, I mean, but I think the other guys maybe won't be as bad. Yeah, I still have a lot of built-in respect of LeBron and AD, even though on opening night, I feel like opening night this year they're playing the Warriors, they lost. I remember watching the Lakers and being like, this team might be bad, just like in the first game, and nothing has changed. Nothing about their on-court play has changed, other than I guess, give some respect to LeBron James, and I have fears. And then after that, if I'm doing a hierarchy, I don't, tell me if you agree or not, I have kind of the Nuggets in there, and then it's just like, is it the Nuggets, the Mavs, or the Grizzlies in there? Are the Clippers in there? It's all like a big wash. Do I include the Trailblazers? Like, I feel like maybe those 5 teams that would be the 5 through 9 in the West. And I'm more like, after 11 games for most teams, I still have no idea kind of where it'll shake out.
It's funny that you have the Grizzlies so low, because to me, the Nuggets and Grizzlies are better than those teams you mentioned, Dallas, Clippers, and Portland. Like, to me, those teams are in a lower category, or at least clearly below in the same category. And Phoenix, by the way, to me, is in that zone as well. Like, Phoenix has looked more just beatable. Like they look like a team that has flaws. They have strengths, and their strengths are really good, and their flaws are like, okay, we know them now. So, which is just like all the other teams in this tier. So I don't know, man. They're all just jumbled up there. Utah, I do think, is like it's very easy for Utah to win. Yeah. That's one of the things that's different. Like all these other teams have to get Jokic has to be great, and you got to have John Morant needs to do his thing. I think Utah just kind of wins on autopilot a lot. And then I think Golden State, I do just believe in Golden State's ceiling. I also, maybe I shouldn't factor this in, I still think they make a big trade this year. I think
Oh,
they're
really?
too good. Yeah, I just think they're too good, and they have too many players you could move for like a really good piece. That I think their final form ends up being really dynamic. And if Klay Thompson gets back in time to warm up for the postseason, yeah, that's a lot of weapons, and they know teams that know who they are, man. It's so valuable. They know who they are.
Yeah, I do like you elevating the Grizzlies over the Mavericks. Thank you for doing that. I mean,
Yeah,
most people don't. I kind of feel that. Actually, I feel like the Grizzlies and Mavericks are very, very close. I feel like they're essentially the same quality. I do think the Grizzlies are better than the Trailblazers. I do think they're better than Clippers, but that's, I assumed, was my homerism, and that's not a widely held opinion.
I think Memphis is really good, man. This might be the year. Like this is what happens. This is what in my opinion, the flaw in the logic that you are bringing to the table, but probably everybody is when a team hasn't made it over the hump, like in the playoffs, you just assume, oh, they're not there. But I'm watching this team and I go, no, they're actually really good. They got a lot of good players. They have a lot of different avenues to win. And yes, they've never proved it in the playoffs, but why would they? They were 22 years old. Now they're 23. This is probably the year they do get over the hump. So, I look at them. I just like the way they play. They have a lot of ways to win. They have a lot of good players. The Dallas has, not very many ways to win. A lot of these teams don't have very many ways to win. And that's just why I think like, hey, heroic efforts carrying you to victories in November. That makes sense. We'll see what happens down the road.
The Southwest Division right now, the team with the best net rating, it's the Spurs. It's
a lot of losses.
Dallas and Memphis both underwater on the net rating. Who's the best team among the 9 teams we haven't mentioned on the bottom of the West to you right now? Is it? Man. I mean, is it the Timberwolves? Is it the Kings? Is it the idea of the Zion returning to the Pelicans? I have like, is it the healthy Pels?
Man, talk about
thing
sad.
Even exists.
The Pelicans, man. Your season's, I don't want to say it's over because it is so early, but it's kind of over before it got started. And you're right. Like Zion and Ingram come back. This is a whole different team. Maybe they're good. They go on a run, but you got to go on such a run just to get back to 500.
The play-in makes it not over. You can start off 1-10 or 6-22 like they did in Zion's rookie year.
Denver last year started 1-4. Not that bad. 1-4. And it took all year for them to climb back to home court advantage. Like all year was just a constant. Yeah. They went on winning streaks. They had like, they've won 10 of 12. And it just like you move up one game every month in the stand or one spot in the standing. It takes so long. So 1-9, that's to get to the play-in. They need to be starting now.
They're 1-10 now. They got smoked. Are the Thunder the 10th seed?
Oh man.
Have they won 3 straight? They've won 3 of They've won 3 in the last week. I don't know if it's all in a row.
The loser teams have all played each other lately. It's kind of great. I think the team that you mentioned there, that's the most intriguing to me. Minnesota's intriguing, but I've given up. This was the last year I got fooled by the like promise of Towns is like, he's so talented. He's so talented, but I'm just like, he's not going to do it, man. Like this team.
This is the conversation I have with a lot of other people. We've always been saying like, man, Anthony Edwards needs to be saved from D'Angelo Russell. But right. does he actually need to be saved from D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns?
I honestly think so, man. And it's not that those guys can't win. Those guys are going to go to a super team and win, and like then people are going to be like, look, I told you. I just that those guys I don't think can get through this process that that team is in. It takes a lot of leadership and patience and development and looking in the mirror. And I just don't think either of those guys have it. But the team that is to me that I like watching and I'm kind of intrigued by it is the Kings. If they weren't the Sacramento Kings, if that was like the Seattle Supersonics, I'd be like, yeah, hey, I love this team. They're coming around. But
they got destroyed on Wednesday night, and it was like a game where you're like, what in the? We thought you guys were kind of fun. We thought you guys were bringing it together, and like maybe it's just they were missing Halliburton, but like I don't think Halliburton shouldn't be that important, but maybe he is. Like it feels like that's a team that also has a bunch of guys who maybe for whatever reason, maybe it's years of losing, they struggle to develop the habits. And then you have this breath of fresh air with Davion Mitchell and last year Tyrese Halliburton. And those guys are like, no, we can do this. We're good. Our spirits haven't been broken yet. we have the so, but then like Halliburton misses one game and like they lose terribly.
But the Nuggets were missing Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, and Nikola Jokic last night.
No, but you have culture. Nuggets have built-in winning culture. Yeah.
That's why I said if the Sacramento Kings were the Seattle Supersonics or something else, I would be like, hey man, they can get it together. They're young, but I'm like, hey, that stain might be on that team if they're doing this already this early.
That's right. Well, anyway, Adam, I appreciate you coming on as always. You have any parting shots you want to throw at the Miami Heat or anything?
I will say the Miami Heat came out looking kind of bad here, and it's kind of funny to me.
I thought they were having a terrible evening. I thought it was I was sending Chuck from Fastbreak Breakfast, from Miami, a Miami Heat fan. I was sending him so many texts. He was asleep because he had to wake up so early for work. But I was just like, this is such a bad look for you guys. That photo of them in the tunnel, like hold me back to like one security guard. It's like, this is so embarrassing. Also, you didn't see, I don't know if you saw it on TV or saw a replay. The Miami Heat broadcast was so beyond embarrassing. It was humiliating. They never once said anything about Markieff Morris committing a flagrant 2, which got himself ejected. They were like, well, there's the foul. There's the take foul by Morris. And then he responds like, that's not a take foul.
That's not a take foul. Yeah.
Oh man.
I heard it called accidental. I heard it called a hard foul, but nothing egregious. And I was just all right, guys.
You can see on not on like a weird replay on a certain angle on the main broadcast camera on the sideline. You see Markieff Morris turn like a beeline, like a free safety, go and get him and deliver the shot to the ribs. I was baffled.
Things were already down bad at that moment because the Nuggets really took it to them in that game. I mean, just completely dominated that one for the entirety of the game. But then to go out like that and then to have the whole we're tough guys. The one thing I'll say is Udonis everybody kept doing the fan fiction, right? The Udonis like, oh man, dude, he gets in the tunnel, they match up. UD's gonna knock everybody out. For him to come out and kind of be like, no, man, I respect that dude. It's like, hey man, this is the ultimate. This couldn't be any better. It's honestly my favorite week of the year so far. It's been almost perfect.
It's been good. Anyway, well, get better, Markieff Morris. Hurry back. Hope you feel great. I'm gonna send you a card. Anyway, Adam, talk to you soon. All right, buddy.
Thanks so much, Emily.
Hey, man. I'll see you
later.